All right, Parliament is back in session, and now we can get right into the immediate work of looking into that Chinese what? Of course, Justin Trudeau just got off his trip from India. He was massively embarrassed by his own behavior there. There's the things that he had to say. The Indians not very happy with him and his visit. This also going back on his previous visits, where he brought with him in his entourage, which it was pointed out in a previous video that I showed, where they were criticizing that a Khalistani was in his entourage, someone who is actually convicted of not some good stuff here in a Canadian court, but. This is what he dropped on the feed of everybody at Parliament when they were all, hey, let's get back into session and let's talk about the things that are happening in Canada and let's talk about the Chinese interference that we haven't gotten to. Finally get to it. Nope. Here comes the next one.
I want now to speak with all Canadians. Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Canada is a rule of law country. The protection of our citizens and defense of our sovereignty are fundamental. Our top priorities have therefore been, one, that our law enforcement and security agencies ensure the continued safety of all Canadians, and two, that all steps be taken to hold perpetrators of this murder to account. Canada has declared its deep concerns to the top intelligence and security officials of the Indian government. Last week at the G20, I brought them personally and directly to Prime Minister Modi in no uncertain terms. Any involvement of a foreign government in the killing of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil is an unacceptable violation of our sovereignty. It is contrary to the fundamental rules by which free, open, and democratic societies conduct themselves. As you would expect, we've been working closely and coordinating with our allies on this very serious matter. In the strongest possible terms, I continue to urge the government of India to cooperate with Canada to get to the bottom of this matter.
So what is the purpose of bringing this up to the Canadian citizens? I mean, this is something that you would normally expect to not have an announcement made for it. This is something he would talk with you would talk with diplomats, you would talk with people from India, use the CSIS, our intelligence service. But instead, in the middle of an investigation, he throws this in the laps of everyone in Parliament. Now, I understand the seriousness of this claim, but this gets muddy. It is not a very clean sort of scenario. It's not like India came and killed some Canadian citizen per se, because there's contention on even if it was a Canadian citizen and what his affiliations were with what organizations. And again, I'm not taking sides on any of these things. I'm just reporting on the story here. But this is what we know about the man India allegedly killed on Canadian soil. And this is from the National Post. Any involvement of foreign government in the killing of a Canadian citizen in Canadian soil is unacceptable violation of our sovereignty, Trudeau said. Now, this is a picture of the man in question here, and here he is with the Khalistani movement. This apparently is a movement of separatists that, in no uncertain terms, the Indian government has a very strong disagreement with these individuals. There's some history on that, and while we can get into a bit of that, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said Monday there is credible evidence that agents of the Indian government were behind the act here. Now, that doesn't mean that they, people want their day in court. This is a thing. This is really an interesting timing for Justin Trudeau as he's back in Parliament. He's under a lot of heat because, we've got a failing economy. We've got so much trouble here in Canada at the hands of him and his economic policy. And then also we have the investigation into Chinese interference in 2 elections that got him elected. Now, the timing seems very sus in all of this. On June 18th, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a Sikh leader in Surrey, BC, was gunned down as he left his Gurdwara. Apologies if I mispronounce any of this stuff. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police Integrated Homicide Investigation Team said that 2 heavyset suspects are believed to have shot Nijjar before fleeing to a getaway vehicle driven by a 3rd suspect. The suspects are still at large. Any involvement of a foreign government in a killing of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil is unacceptable violation, says Trudeau. Now, what we need to know is this individual was holding a contentious position in a contentious group of individuals known as the Khalistanis. These are Sikh Indians. Not all Sikh Indians are Khalistanis, and not all all Khalistanis are Sikh Indians. But this is a fraction of the group of Sikh Indians in Canada, and they have very specific political aims, to which actually Jagmeet Singh is part of this, or is at least affiliated with this group, and because of this has been barred from entering India. Yes, the Sikh leader in Canada for the NDP is barred from entering India. That's correct. Who was Hardeep Singh Nijjar? Nijjar served as the president of the Sikh temple where he was killed. He also worked as a plumber, according to Global News. He came to Canada in 1997, Global reported, and claimed refugee status after having used a false passport to enter the country. His refugee claim was rejected, but 11 days after that, he married a woman who sponsored him for immigration. Sounds a little sus. Yeah, so that's what the immigration officers thought too. That too was rejected because of that, I'm assuming. Although Nijjar called himself a Canadian citizen, and Trudeau referred to him as such in the House of Commons on Monday. Now, that this is all a big point of contention. Now, Vancouver Sun reporting on this, Hardeep Nijjar met CSIS every week before killing that Trudeau links to India. Why would a guy who just happens to be a nobody is meeting with CSIS? Why is he meeting with RCMP officers? What is all of this, and what is it all about? Balraj Nijjar says he also attended a meeting between his father and the RCMP last year in which they were told about threats to his father's life. Now, this article, again, links in the description down below. You can read these articles for yourself, but it seems like there's been a bunch of contention between the group that he's involved with and another group. Now, these groups exist in Canada as well. I mean, this is all stuff that's coming from India. India's a big place. There's a lot of different cultures and a lot of different communities, and there are conflicts between those. Now, we're seeing those conflicts here in Canada. Does that mean that this was specifically the Indian government? Well, this is something that Trudeau is claiming. Now, extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence, unless it's just for political clout. And this is where I'm getting into this, and I'm giving a bit of conjecture. It seems very sus, the timing of this. He just got criticized by India. He's in the hot seat at home for all kinds of things. He's low in the poll numbers. He's now picking a fight with a giant nation across the oceans. This is not great. And Daniel Bordman has a really, really good rundown of this, but I'll just give a few little snippets from this. He lays down what the Khalistani thing is here.
Okay, so it's a Sikh separatist movement that wants to break off from India, and it was started in the 1980s, funded majority and created by Pakistan, which has murdered nearly all of their own Sikh population internally, but is using the Sikh population as a domestic wedge to undermine Indian sovereignty. Because India and Pakistan, for if you don't know anything about geopolitics, spoiler alert, not friends. All right. So in 1984, this is when this stuff happens, right? There's the World Sikh Organization is formed, there's tensions, you have the Operation Blue Star, and then Indira Gandhi is assassinated by 2 Sikh guards, and then this results in the anti-Sikh riots in India, and that's generally you could say the start of it. But
Anyway, I'll leave that in the description down below. You can check it out. But this is what the Indian news is talking about in this situation.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has just announced to the world that he is a terrorist enabler. Not a sympathizer, but an active enabler of extremists and terrorists. The reason, it's actually one of the oldest reasons in the political book, and no one should be surprised. The sizable Sikh population in Canada, which wields significant influence in important pockets of that country. Before I proceed, I wish to get one thing out of the way, viewer, and this is very important to me. Khalistani terrorists like Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who was killed 3 months ago, and whose assassination Justin Trudeau now blames India for, are just a tiny, minuscule section of the Canadian Sikh community who are otherwise peaceful, responsible citizens like anyone else and do not support terrorist threats and violence against the country of their origin or, in fact, for anyone else. Trudeau says that an entire community cannot be blamed for the actions of a few, which is totally true, like I've mentioned above. But it holds no weight when Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, has taken no action even against those minuscule few, and instead has decided to stand up in his parliament to point a finger at the world's biggest democracy, a country of 1.3 billion people, to defend a person who is by all means a terrorist. In doing so, Justin Trudeau hasn't just proven to be a terrorist enabler, but also perhaps one of the most short-sighted world leaders in history, in my opinion.
Okay, I'll leave the link to this in the description. You can check it out for yourself in its entirety. Of course, I don't know enough about the Khalistani movement to make any labels or any of that stuff, but clearly India labels them a terrorist organization, which breeds all kinds of contention with Justin Trudeau, as he was dumb enough to bring someone to India with him that was a member of this organization. And this is another thing that Daniel Bordman points out.
Socialism, whatever, however Trudeau makes decisions. So you have that to contend with. Now you also have the thing in Trudeau where he just recently, he went to India. This was his second most disastrous trip to India. I mean, at least he didn't put on blackface this time, and invited terrorists. Remember, Justin Trudeau last time he was in India invited a convicted Khalistani terrorist in a Canadian court, convicted in a Canadian court of attempting to murder an Indian official in a Canadian court. He brought him to a special dinner in India. Oh, Jasper. So this is the level of insanity the Indians are dealing with. Just looking at this guy going, what are you doing? Of course we can,
Yes, so this is contention that Trudeau is just famous for in Canada, bringing division, bringing more contention, and this may be a political tool that he's using, of course. Now, Mark Miller, who is the Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship in Canada, says, I can confirm that Hardeep Singh Nijjar became a citizen on March 3rd, 2015. Hope this dispels the baseless rumors that he was not a Canadian. Now, of course, there's what the National Post had written about Andrew Lawton jumping in, saying perhaps Chris Alexander could shed some light on how a man who used a fraudulent passport, lied in his immigration application, was viewed by Interpol as a suspected terrorist, could get Canadian citizenship. How does this occur? Well, it occurred in Justin Trudeau's Canada after 2015, and we've seen all kinds of stuff. Now, Pierre Poilievre obviously sharing words. These are mostly, what you would expect. These are the words that any time something bad like this happens, it is always, something that's not viewed as something good, the typical thing that would be said in a parliamentary fashion. Now, Justin Trudeau afterwards asked, "Why? What is it with the timing on this?"
Is more public with this now?
Over the course of the summer, we have been working closely with our intelligence agencies who are moving forward in their analysis. We wanted to make sure.
What about the agencies who are looking at Chinese interference, all these other things? Why is he coming forward now with allegations, not even something that's a definitive? We've got someone arrested. We've got somebody with this. Where's the information on this? No. Here's an accusation. I'm not going to give you any of the details. We're just going to walk away from this.
That we had solid grounding in understanding what was going on in analysis and indeed in facts. We wanted to make sure we were taking the time to talk with our allies, to share what we knew. We wanted to make sure that we fully shared with the government of India the seriousness and the depths of our preoccupations and indeed conclusions. But Canadians have a right to know and need to know when things are going on like this, and that's why we made the decision to do this.
I honestly, in my opinion, I think I see it very as an irresponsible thing to do. We need to get to the bottom of it. Yes, that's for sure. But let's get to the bottom of it before going public and making a pariah of one of our biggest trading partners, a big country in the world. This is just insanity. Trudeau, again, picking fights with just ridiculous fights with people he shouldn't be and putting Canadians in harm's way. Now, Pierre Poilievre obviously asked about this as well. And he was, what is this? What is this whole situation? And well, when it came to why is it that, we're not looking into the interference here?
Do you agree with the government's decision to go public with the intelligence? And if so, why?
I would have to have more evidence to make a judgment on that.
Okay, last question.
I do find it interesting that he knew about vast foreign interference by Beijing for many years at the same time as Beijing had kept 2 Canadian citizens hostage, and he said nothing and he did nothing. Just very, very interesting that was the approach he took in that case.
Yeah, just saying, throwing that one out there. Just saying, hey, Trudeau knew a lot about of very specific details about a lot of these cases that turn out not so well in his favor. And now that everything's coming down on him, now that everything is raining down on him, this is his final leg. Even the CBC is turning their back on Justin Trudeau. There's a reason interview. I was going to do the story on that today, but I guess we'll be doing that in the morning or perhaps another time. But they've turned their back on him. Now he's got something else. Hey, why don't we just pick a fight with India? What are we doing? This is insanity. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think. Where do you stand on this whole Khalistani thing? I don't really know much about it. I just know that there's a contentious issue in India, and we shouldn't be stirring things up with one of our biggest trading partners, with a country that we're largely peaceful with and have no issues. Why is it that our prime minister is coming out above and beyond everybody else and causing a fight? Leave a comment in the comment section down below. We'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.